Saturday dawned fine and clear. Young gun Travis Robinson would lead the field away at 1 minute intervals. The 187k loop would take the front runners just over 2 hours to complete. On board the number 13 Jimco for this spectacular ride. With over 600 horsepower and rear-wheel drive, it takes plenty of attention from the crew just to keep it pointing in the fastest direction. Just back the second of the out-of-bounds machines, Brian very familiar with this course and will pick his mark as to when to turn up the heat. First timer Wally Frankham would continue his good form, keeping the 88 machine smooth. He would have to battle the fast-approaching Bat cars, South African Brandon Harkis on a charge. Team boss Brad Cooper also well and truly fired up. Bradley Mudge would eventually have to relinquish his fourth prologue spot to the Pinjarra Engineering cars, but this group would all be very close time-wise. Having worked hard through the night to chase an electrical problem with the 85 car, it seemed that all was on track. The latest spec Jimco absolutely on song, Bo Robinson pushing hard and looking to challenge the outright positions. Unfortunately though, with only 20 kilometres of track covered, the problem would resurface, the engine backfiring and the crew forced to park it up. Also sidelined the Rentons, their V8 powered Jimco out with more electrical problems. The local pairing of Stedman and Boston would also have an early day, the 199 ProLite out of the dash. Gwyn and Mortimer would continue their good prologue form, pushing hard over the unforgiving terrain, rewarded with first tin top back in. They would only be a few minutes down on the pro buggy of Mudge and keep a handy lead on the next spot down. The Chev-powered patrol of Murray and Smith a great job on not only keeping the Blue Beast on the track, but also away from the stray wildlife and eventually finishing 8th outright. Also getting through the loop and finishing a fine 9th, Povar, putting together a good run, staying in front of the production four-wheel drive leaders, Hall and Isaac. Their less modified patrol handling the conditions and back into service, ready to tackle day 2 from 10th place. Back with the front runners and problems for Cooper. An electrical gremlin would force him to pull over, letting the team car of Harkis to pass on by. This is a good effort from the South African. He would take this form all the way to the finish, grabbing 4th. Cooper would manage to fire up his machine and charge back in, not only making up time but putting a good gap on the next car down. For the front 3, no change. Wally Frankham, an impressive pace and reliable. 3rd outright and very pleased considering it's in someone else's car with an interesting twist to the invitation to drive.
Well, Rob Hawker actually just Facebooked me one day and asked if I'd like to go for a drive in it, and of course I jumped at the opportunity. It's a brilliant car to drive, very easy, very forgiving, and I'm having a ball in it.
A 1-2 for the Robinson team. A calculated drive by Brian would net 2nd for the loop. The gap to the leader, 1 minute 42. With his experience, it's surely looking like an awesome battle for the teammates. Well, there's no doubt that the talented youngster behind the wheel of the number 13 car is no one-hit wonder. With the assistance of long-time off-road co-driver Paul Curry, this crew have managed to carve out an aggressive but smooth day one's effort. The exciting racing would certainly not be confined to the auto division. At 10:30 a.m, the bikes would be let loose, and with 30-second intervals for the top 10, then pairs and groups away with the same gap, it wouldn't be long before the tracks would fire up with battles up and down the field. Plenty of interest at the pointy end. The legend, Vern Strange, leading the way with the advantage of clear air. However, the charge from Todd Smith was to be a very real threat. Before long, the KTM rider would be in Vern's dust, but it seemed he would be patient and pick his moment to overtake. Paul Brown would continue his prologue form, building speed to a pace that would keep him near the front runners. Ivan Ersic on board the number 3 Honda also working hard on early speed, but not at the expense of his overall plan of working his way into a good rhythm and settle for a long haul rate. Stephen Mitchell, another of the front pack on a Honda, he would make sure he kept within striking distance of the lead times. Just back from the lead group, Adam Clay would look to up his prologue form and push for a front spot. 6th place on the Friday sprint would set Warren Kempton's tempo. He also keen to be on or about the front running times. Dash regular Ted Godden would be turning the wick up and making ground on the riders in front. He would put in what looked to be a comfortable ride, grabbing 10th. A clear run for Gavin Cullens meant he would claim 9th, and Trail Riders' own Chris Thomas improving 6 places to be 8th overall. Heading towards half distance, and Vern Strange was still leading. This is just under 170 kilometres per hour. Vern tucked down GP style, every minute advantage being scraped together. Well within striking distance though, the KTM of Todd Smith was looking and sounding the goods. Both these guys putting it all well and truly on the line. Smith would wait until 20 k's from home before exacting the move on Strange. Once past, he would blast off and take the loop by just over 2 minutes. While the leaders enjoyed a trouble-free run, the same could not be said for Carnarvon rider Paul Brown. Having put together a good early pace, just past Lockie's Knob spectator point, his Honda would cry enough. The engine seizing, his good run over. Amazingly, he would still manage to salvage a result. As the bike cooled, he restarted, attacking the back end of the loop, finishing 7th, but that would be his event done. Warren Kempton would put together a well-planned section to take 6th position for day 1, just over a minute and a half behind 5th. There would be a good mix of brands across the top 5, Clay and his KTM breaking up the Honda lineup in 5th. Stephen Mitchell relatively pleased with his day's work, staying in touch with the riders in front, using his local knowledge to advantage.
Yeah, I've made a little bit of time on Ivan Ursig, and I think he was just going for the motions, and I think when he saw me up it a bit, but yeah, and just that little bit of dust there was a bit of a hindrance. So I just tried to play it safe till I got the second checkpoint. I knew the wind was going to be blowing away from the track then, so yeah.
Events like this attract heaps of fabulous characters. The number 3 Honda man, Ivan Ursig, is a great example of someone just loving this sport and the challenges it can throw up. The battle with Mitchell, a big part of his day 1.
I don't perform real well in the sprint part, the first 50 k's, my arms all pump up, I can't hold on. I tend to slow down a bit so I don't fall off, and then caught him in the mirror and thought it was time to move on. You know, he come in just after me at the fuel stop at 90 k's. And I seen him pull in, and I thought now's the time. He's duck knows the track and he's good in the river, so he's probably going to be on my tail again tomorrow. We'll see what happens, you know.
There is a lot of talk amongst the riders about the river condition after recent rains. Ivan sums it up and his preparations for the big run on leg 2.
First, we only did a couple of sections of river today, and the first section today was a real rude awakening. It was rough. I don't know why or how, but yeah, I thought, geez, I hope tomorrow's not like that.
So at the moment, get some rest in, load up on the carbohydrates and into it in the morning, eh?
Yeah, probably carbohydrates out of a green bottle, but yeah, we'll see how we go.
For Vern Strange, he would find himself in unfamiliar territory, sitting in second with plenty of pressure being applied.
Yeah, Todd's been right behind me every inch of the way, put a heap of pressure on, and it was all I could do just to hold him off for as long as I could. About 15-20k back he got past, and once he got past, I didn't see him for dust. He was just took off, and yeah, it looked like I was standing still.
For Smith, he would take it in his stride, pleased with his workload. His Motorex KTM machine doing a good job of the big loop. The New South Welshman needing to handle the dusty conditions for a lot of the way.
Yeah, pretty good run. It's a bit dusty out there, sort of caught Vern, sort of about, 10 or 15 k's in and sort of stayed there, couldn't really get up close to him because of the dust.